Today I'm going to talk about our church right here in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Immediately after our worship service today, we're holding our annual congregational meeting. Now, when I think of our congregational meeting and really anything we do that relates to how the church works, I picture, of all things, a duck. Or if you prefer, a beautiful swan gliding across the smooth surface of a pond. I prefer to imagine a swan, much more elegant. From the vantage point of the shore, the church can be thought of like that swan, moving serenely across the water. But have you ever seen a video taken underwater from beneath that swan? Its legs and webbed feet are in constant motion, paddling, paddling. The swan might appear to be perfectly serene from above, but beneath, it's performing a real workout, propelling itself through the water, always moving, changing direction in response to whatever's going on. The swan may be in search of food. It may be keeping its children in tow. It's alert for any signs of danger. The swan is always scanning the water, the shore, the trees, the sky. And in response and in anticipation and in deciding to turn this way or that way, those legs and feet below the surface are just churning forward, hardly ever stopping to rest. There's always some place to go. The legs and feet just keep on moving. At an annual meeting or at a consistory meeting or an executive council meeting or a meeting of the worship committee or the social action committee, it's just like those constantly moving legs and feet propelling us through the water. At a book club or at a roadside trash pickup day or at a circle dinner or when we make a delivery to a food pantry, those legs and feet are moving. Before a worship service like this one, when our audio-visual techs and greeters and ushers and musicians all arrive very early to make everything ready. Or when people prepare and bring coffee and snacks for fellowship time after church, or when children are being cared for and they do Sunday school together, those legs and feet, they're just going like crazy. On weekdays, during the day, there are untold details to take care of. Every week, 100 questions to be answered. God only knows how many emails to sort through, constant updates to be made to events, decisions about how to plan and promote and communicate what all is going on. Finances to be managed, members to be visited, a building to be maintained and repaired, worship services, memorial services, weddings, baptisms, special services, music, readings, volunteers to be recruited and scheduled, a website and social media to be updated. All of it, legs and feet underwater, spinning and spinning. And in the afternoons and evenings, practically every night of the week, when you might think the church would climb up onto the shore and take a well-deserved rest, we do so much. That's when a lot of our own groups meet, but in the eyes and hearts of our larger community, that's when Salem really shines. When many of us might not notice it happening because we mostly see what's happening above the surface. But on weekday afternoons and evenings, here's what goes on. Recent immigrants to this country gather to learn English so that they can participate fully in our economy and in our democracy. In the evenings is when two separate youth groups for LGBTQ adolescents and teens gather to learn that they're not alone in the world, where they can be themselves, where they can know, if not at home and if not at school and if not anywhere else in the world, that they are valuable and their lives have meaning and purpose and that they are beloved, just as they are. Nights are also when people in recovery and their families and friends can gather here in safety to share and encourage one another on their journey of sobriety and getting their very lives back. Salem is where Girl Scouts meet, and yes, I still love Thin Mint cookies in case anyone is wondering. It's where piano lessons are given. It's where friends come to play card games. It's where food and clothing and Christmas gifts are collected. It's where people vote and where every day people hug and laugh and cry and talk about everything from the weather to the very meaning of life. When I mention the impact of our church on our community, I realize I get to see that maybe more than most people. I was at a dinner party several weeks ago, just minding my own business, conveniently hanging out next to a table loaded with a shrimp cocktail, when a man approached who happens to be a member of the Doylestown Borough Council. After exchanging pleasantries, he said to me, I just need to tell you what a difference your church makes. And I said, oh, really? And he said, Salem is known as the place where anyone is welcome. Things are happening there. Your hospitality is legendary. You make Doylestown a much kinder, gentler, more inclusive place to live, he said. And on more than one occasion, this has happened. I've been at Salem on nights when the Rainbow Room is met and Court Street is jam-packed with parked cars. It's parents waiting to pick up their teenagers when the meeting lets out. I've walked out the front door to go to my car or to walk home, and someone waiting in their car at the curb rolls down their window and says to me, "Aren't you the pastor here?" And I'll say, "Yeah." And with tears rolling down their cheeks, they thank me and thank the church, really, for being a safe and welcoming place. Because they tell me how their child has been bullied and shunned at school. And this parent is so grateful that a church, this church, any church, would have the guts and the grace to host a group like the Rainbow Room. That group has literally saved their child's life. One parent told me, "You are the only Christians I know who actually act like it." You need to hear stories like that of what we are doing in this place, of how this church is loving its neighbor. Although I don't mean to call Salem a place, Salem is not an it, as if our church is an inanimate object. Salem is neither inanimate nor an object. It is a loving organism, a collection of people, generous and kind-hearted people, almost all volunteers and a few paid staff, whose legs and feet are spinning as we glide through the water. So our annual congregational meeting is just one piece of our journey. It's one way we ensure that we're in covenant with each other, that we're including one another in leadership, and in how we share and allocate our resources as we move through the pond. And a large part of my work, maybe the most important job I have as a pastor, is to point out the big picture of things, the reason why we churn our legs and feet so hard. It's my role to remind us of the water itself, to remind us that the water we're gliding across is also constantly flowing, that the world around us is changing very quickly. We've been through so much the last few years, it's almost like navigating a whole new river. It's certainly not a still pond anymore, if it ever really was. Fewer people than ever before actually belong to or attend any kind of church. We know that's true. We can look at our own families and neighbors, and we know that fewer and fewer of them are attending church. The reasons for that are many. But in a lot of respects, if we're at all like swans gliding on a body of water, that water is the cultural reality that we find ourselves in, which means that we certainly need to keep paddling, but we also need to know what's up with the water. We need to know which way to go, the course we need to chart. And that task of navigation is a constant work in progress. Now, the good news is that we are not interested in growing a church for the sake of growing a church. That is a dead end. No one wants to join an institution anyway. An institution is a thing, an object, a place. But there is something people will join in droves, and that is a cause. A cause is the reason why we do anything. A cause that matters and makes a positive difference in people's lives, in our lives and anyone else who believes that God's love includes all people. It's the exact same cause the Apostle Paul wrote about in his letter to the Colossians 2,000 years ago. It was the righteous cause of Jesus Christ, who Paul said was pleased to reconcile to himself all things, all people, and everything. Not some, but all. All meaning all. To awaken the love of God within all people, to affirm the light of that love in all people, to acknowledge the inherent value and dignity of that love imparts in all people, and to then welcome all those people and celebrate that spiritual unity with all those people. To be in true communion. To know we're all navigating the same big pond, paddling as best we can, but together we will find a way. So that's a cause that says, our world's far too small for tribalism and further dividing people, so it's a cause for unity. It's a cause for good. It's a cause for peace, a cause for justice, a cause for celebration, a cause for finding community and belonging, a cause for the transformation of hearts and minds. And that's why the other big part of my job is to encourage all of us to invite others to join us in pursuing that cause. And finally, to remind us that everything we do, our congregational meeting today, and the opening of our doors and our hearts in Jesus' name every single day, requires us to keep on paddling. But we are proving, and we will keep on proving, that we are pretty good swans.